Hello you guys, welcome back to my channel, Sailor's Wife, Crazy Life. So, I'm looking kind of crazy, y'all. We went to the park today and played some more volleyball. I have my little cheat sheet, so if you see me looking down, that would be why. But today's video is going to be trials and tribulations of the PCS move. So, if you care to watch it, or you just want to know what it's like to PCS in the military, which means move, keep watching, and as always, subscribe to my channel, give it a big thumbs up, and hit the bell button so you can see when my videos become available, and let's get into it. So, we finally, you guys have been knowing for the longest amount of time that we're getting ready to move. However, we've been dealing with housing for a while now. I don't want to talk bad about housing where we're going. It is a very heavily populated military area. So I get why it's so hard to get into military housing and kind of get what you want, but I cannot explain to y'all how difficult this has been. So I have no issues with telling you guys, we were in California before we got here in Virginia, and when we moved to California, my husband was supposed to be there in February. They called us and it was like, no, we need you here in January. I had put in our paperwork because I had already heard from other people, you know, you need to put it in at least 6 weeks before, you know, longer if possible. So I had put it in like November. So, which was more than enough time. So I had to call San Diego and be like, hey, you know, my husband got short order. We're supposed to be there in February, but now he's going to be there in January. What do we do now for housing? And basically, they couldn't tell us anything that far out, but they did just say, basically, if you haven't heard from us, excuse me, please show up here. We'll give you a few options and you can choose from it. Believe us, we will not leave you homeless. And that's a very highly populated area. Super sweet people to work with. Awesome housing. You know, we got lucky and we got on the island per se. We were in Coronado and we kind of loved it and hated it. It was a love-hate relationship, but it is what it is. So I put in our paperwork back in October, end of September, beginning of October. Reason being is I knew for a fact that the main housing that we wanted, and you know, I had vetted out a lot of the housing, and I'd had girlfriends that had lived in the different housing developments, and I knew that this is the one that I wanted. And it has a 12 to 16 month wait list on it. So I put it in October thinking more than enough time, right? I mean, yes, there is a 12 to 16 month window, but we weren't getting ready to leave until July. And she did tell me when I put it in that those numbers fluctuate and go down and fluctuate and go down. So it's not, you can't really always go off of the 12 to 16 month window. So I started calling them. I did, you know, I talked to them when I first put it in and kind of, you know, blah blah blah, dealt with all the paperwork, and then apologies, and then I started calling them in January because I wanted to make sure, you know, we're on the list for where we needed to be and that kind of thing. And I didn't call again because there was no need to. We were still 6 months out. There was no reason to even call them. So I started calling them back every week in March. Reason being is March would have been 3 months out from us leaving. So, or about 3.5 months. So I started calling them just to kind of see where we were on the wait list. And this is where the fun begins. So when I called her in March, and I've spoken to a different person every time, however, the last week and a half or whatever that we found out our, you know, address and stuff like that, I've been talking to a really sweet girl. Shout out to her. Her name is Alexis. I won't give her a last name, but she's super sweet and super helpful. So I started, like I said, I started calling them every week as of middle of March, something like that. This is when I find out that even though I had put in paperwork in October that we did not get put on the list until February, and here's why. It's kind of hard to explain, but basically my husband is here where we're at, and he technically detached from this duty station. Even though we're still here, he's going here for school, and that is why we're still here. So from February until the time that we leave in July, he's in his schooling that requires him, they have to take it because he will be taking over probably like the LPO position, which is the lead petty officer, if you don't know, position of the ship. And that's not a guarantee. I'm not saying that that's what he's going to be taking over, but they have to go through the schooling of everything he needs to know and kind of an updated version of everything he needs to know. So anyways, he's got to do that. And so basically what she tells me is that we didn't get put on the list until February because that's when he technically detached. So what was the point of me putting in the paperwork so far ahead to get on this 12 to 16 month wait list if you're not going to put us on it until February? And I get the logistics of it. It's not anything having to do with housing. It comes down from, you know, what they consider to be their district or their corporate, and that's just how the rules work. However, it still sucks because had I known that, honest to God, I probably just would have put in my paperwork 6 to 8 weeks ago and just dealt with whatever they gave us. Because if there was no reason for me to get on the wait list, then why did I even do it? Because all I've been doing is stressing myself out because I haven't heard from these people, and I've had to continue calling to get any information whatsoever. Like, they haven't updated me in any way. So we did get a move date. I called June 18th, which was this past Tuesday, and they still had not called me, y'all. We're 30 days out. Now we're under 30 days. We should have known a month and a half, 2 months ago what our address was and where we were going. Her viewpoint on it is, I don't know. And it's probably because, and this wasn't the girl that we've been dealing with. Like I said, she's super sweet. I don't know. It's probably because you only had one particular housing on your application. It shouldn't matter if I have one particular housing on my application. If that housing is not available, then you should be contacting me and explaining to me, okay, hey, this housing's not available. Let me give you what your options are and see if you're willing to move in somewhere else. Or you can move out in town and stay on the wait list, and we'll call you when there's a house available. And y'all, we have talked about every feasible way of doing this because I really wanted this housing. We've talked about me going home for a year and kind of saving the BAH and that kind of thing. And my husband living on the ship, but unfortunately the ship that he's going to is gutted right now because they're revamping the ship and putting new stuff on the ship, so there's no place for him to sleep. Because if that was the case, then he would just stay on the ship, because it's literally an 8.5 hour drive from my home back home for me, which is Georgia. So we could have come up every other weekend and flip-flopped, and he could have taken leave and that kind of thing, because, you know, he's going to be on a very minimalist shift. But anyways, so had I not called June 18th, I would have never known what housing we were going to be in, because when I called her, she said, you're not scheduled to go into any housing. And I said, so what are my options now? So then she puts me on hold for 10 minutes, and this is the super sweet Alexis girl, so she's been super nice and everything, and she comes back and she goes, love, I'm so sorry, but there is literally one place that has a 4-bedroom available for y'all. And there's a lot of military standards that, you know, that are set in place as to how many bedrooms you get for however many kids you have and that kind of thing. And technically people believe, well, if you've got 4 kids, they should give you 5 bedrooms, you know, 1 for you and your husband and then 4 for each of them. But that's not how they work. There's stipulations and that kind of thing that, you know, if they're a certain sex and they're within a certain age range, they can go in the same bedroom. However, I have 2 preteens. They are the same sex, but there's 2 preteens in my house, and then I have a 4-year-old. So I'm not about to put 2 preteen girls in one room. I'm not about to make it to where, like right now, my 4-year-old and my 9-year-old share a bedroom. However, it's very rare that he's even in there anyways. It's sad to say he still co-sleeps sometimes, and, you know, he's not always in there, and it's just the God's honest truth. Like, if he's just in there to sleep, like, he's not in there. Like, that's technically her room. His bed's just in there. because his toys are in the playroom. So it's not like he's taking up really any space out of her bedroom, because they both have loft beds. His is a little shorter because he's so small, but anyways, I digress. So anyways, had I not called, I would have never known that we had housing. And she was super sweet about it again. She was like, you know, I'm so sorry. You know, I apologize for nobody calling you. Somebody should have contacted you at this point, because y'all don't understand, or if you do understand, when you finally get your housing set up, you then have to set up, I have to give our notice here at this housing, and then we have to set up movers, and you can't set up movers without having an address, because they don't just take your belongings to, you know, a space in BFE. They have to have an address to take it to, or they take it to a storage unit that you request. But yeah, so I had not received a phone call. She was super apologetic, told me that she was sorry and that kind of thing. And, you know, the housing that we got is not what I wanted, obviously. I am 100% grateful that we have a house at all. I want to put that out there. I am very grateful for what we are getting, because, you know, we are getting military housing. It's just not what I want, and I was super particular, and we're losing about 900 square feet from what we have right now, so it's going to be a lot of purging. And I thought I had purged a lot in the beginning when I knew we were getting ready to move, you know, starting back at the end of last year. But I'm gonna have to purge so much more, because there's just no way in heck that all of this stuff is gonna fit in that house. And we have pretty big furniture. I have a pull-out bed couch that's upstairs in Brennan's old room slash my studio room that I normally film in, and that's going to be for guests, but that's going to go in, hopefully we'll get it all worked out and you guys will see that on video. I'm going to vlog everything having to do with PCS. So you know, it's definitely not what I wanted. Like I said, we're losing square feet. We're losing the big backyard, which is really what I wanted, because I wanted to be able to put a jungle gym in for my kid. And you know, I wanted to be able to have my dog. My dog, poor, God love him, he's 15 years old, but you know, he doesn't really have an area around here where he can just take off and run, because it's leash specific. They have to be on leashes. But if we had a backyard, he could just run and play and just, you know, be in his own little world and not have to worry about being on a leash, because honest to God, he hates it and he would love to just go, but he can't. So anyways, just to kind of like sum up this video and kind of what's next. We are moving July 24th. My husband has set up, he graduates the 19th. He has set up Navy movers to come the 20th, or no, not the 20th, I apologize. The 22nd and 23rd, which is that following Monday and Tuesday, and then we'll have our final inspection on that Wednesday. And y'all, we will be out of here. I'm so ready for our next venture. We're not traveling that far. However, we are traveling into a more heavily populated area of military, for one. I have friends there, numerous friends there. I have friends that visit there all the time, and I have friends that are kind of scattered right outside the outskirts of where we're going, so they're going to come up and see us and vice versa, so it'll be really nice. And you know, it's the small things. I want to be able to put my kids back in sports, and there's not a lot of sports here for them to do. You know, my girls were in cheerleading here at the school, and because I wasn't, the last 2 years I've been the cheerleading coach, and because I wasn't able to do it this past year, there was no cheerleading team, which really sucked for my girls, because that's what they love to do. There are like t-ball teams and stuff like that I could have put Brendan in. However, you've got to drive for them, and I know that's my personal time that I'm like, I don't want to give up my personal time to drive my kids 45 minutes somewhere and then 45 minutes back, but everything around here is like an hour away and it sucks. So what's next is we're moving, and like I said, I will be vlogging everything as it comes to pass. I'll be vlogging probably as we're packing up, and that will be really fun, because you guys are going to see me purge a lot. And I'll kind of sort of vlog while the movers are here if they allow me to. I'll just kind of set up my camera and time lapse it so you guys can see kind of how they do it. And yeah, more to come. Keep your eye out for it. Sorry this was, you know, a little bit longer than what I normally do. Tried to keep it short and sweet and keep it compiled into a short little video. But you guys, this is the crazy life we live as military spouses and military in general. So as always, you guys, like I said before, subscribe, hit the little bell button to the side so you can see all of my videos when they become available. Like this video, give it a thumbs up, Share it please, so that more and more people can see it, especially military, especially with this particular information. And as always, you guys, keep living the crazy life. See ya.